Welcome to Dr. Amber Thornton's Know and Grow podcast, where you're never alone in navigating life's biggest moments and toughest lessons. Join me, Dr. Amber Thornton, clinical psychologist, mother of two, as I explore motherhood, parenting, relationships, career, mental health, and the ongoing journey of personal evolution. No, it doesn't stop. These conversations will absolutely make you laugh, may make you cry, will get you to reflect, but more importantly, you'll grow and we'll get to grow together. So I'm glad you're here and I hope that you'll come back. Tune in weekly for informative, thought-provoking, inspiring conversations right here with me. Hey, welcome to another episode of Dr. Amber's Know and Grow podcast. Good to be with you all as always. Hope everyone is doing well. I am here recording another day, another podcast. And so I'm always happy to be here, as you all know. If you see me on YouTube, you see I got the braids back. So I got my braids. I told myself, I'm trying to grow back my hair, and I just will treat myself to knotless braids once a quarter. I told myself seasonally, because for a while I was getting them back to back to back. And I know that that's probably not the best for my edges. So I was like, okay, once a quarter. It's end of March and it was my time. So I went, got my braids done, and now I'm feeling good and looking good. Yes. Shout out to Nadine's if you are in DC, Maryland, the DMV area. I feel like anybody I know who gets braids, or they're going to Nadine's right now. Like Nadine's is very much taking over the braiding world in this area. And this is clearly not sponsored, but that's whenever I get my braids done, that's where I've been. That's where I got them done. So I very much appreciate them, the speediness, the quality of the work, the reasonable prices. It's it for me. But you all, today I was thinking about, what did I want to talk about today? And I always put a lot of thought into what I'm going to come here and talk about on the podcast. And I like to do that because, one, I don't want to waste anyone's time, but also I have just decided that in this season of my life, if I am going to be creating content or showing up online, it's really going to be from a very thoughtful place, a meaningful place, a lot more depth. I don't want to just be doing stuff just to do things. And today I want to tell a story about my decision and my husband's decision, or our decision. That's what I'm trying to say. Our decision to stop growing our family. And I think, or what I hope, is that this topic will be relevant for some of you, because I think many of us, people who are in a similar circle or age range that I am in a similar phase of life, you probably have already started your family and you are now trying to decide, should we continue to grow our family, or is our family complete? And I like to say it that way because it's the positive, nice alternative to growing the family. It's like, okay, do we want to continue to grow it, or is our family complete? So I found myself trying to make that decision a year or so ago, even honestly early this year, and I'll tell this story, with us really going back and forth about whether we wanted to have another child. And I think the question of, should we have another baby? Should I have another child? Should we continue to grow our family? For everyone, that question is so complex and nuanced because there's so many factors that go into making that decision. Yes, you may have a desire to have another baby, but maybe your body is like, no. Or if you want to adopt, maybe you have a desire to adopt, but maybe your bank account is like, no. Or it may be that you have a desire to grow your family, but your partner doesn't, or vice versa. Or maybe just timing doesn't seem appropriate to bring another child into the home. And so there's so many things to consider, but I wanted to tell my story of how I came to my decision. And again, my hope is that this will be something that will allow you to reflect on your decision. I try not to have a lot of tips or strategies in this episode because I just feel like there's no tip for this. I mean, there are a few things to consider, but ultimately, even if everyone's considering the same things, the answers and the choices are always going to be different because this is such a personal thing and everyone needs to make their own decision. But again, my hope is that with sharing my story today, it feels good for me because I get to talk about my story, but also it'll help you get closer to the right decision for you. So let's talk. Let's talk. Should we have another baby? I want to start here. About a month ago, yeah, I would say about a month ago now, my husband and I, we had just got the kids to bed. And usually when we get the kids to bed, we are chilling on the couch, about to turn on a show that we're watching and maybe finishing up our dinner or eating a snack. And I was telling him about how there are so many kids at my job who need homes. So, backstory, I work at a pediatric post acute hospital. And so, this is a hospital where children come after they have had major accidents or major medical procedures, and they're no longer in the acute phase of their illness or their injury, and rather they're trying to recover and then rehabilitate. And unfortunately, we do have a lot of children who come because they maybe were removed from their home. Maybe there was abuse or neglect that led to their injury or their medical condition. And because of that, even when we have rehabilitated or they have gotten to a place where they're much stronger, they still need a home. We have so many children in our facility who need homes and literally just in the hospital because they don't have a home. And there are children there who are my kids' age. And so it often just leaves me thinking, what does this mean? And what does it mean for me to be interacting with this, right? So I was just telling my husband about that. And then it got us talking about the idea of bringing a third child into our home, into our lives. We really allowed ourselves to just dream. Like, we didn't really talk through like the cons or the reasons why not. The conversation was just kind of refreshing because it was, here are all the things that could go right. Here are all the things that could be beautiful about bringing a third child into our home. And here are all the ways we could do it. If we didn't want to actually have a baby, we could adopt, we could foster a child. There's so many ways that we could bring a child into our home to expand our family, but then also give the gift of love and stability and nurturing to another child. We talked about all of that. And I loved that conversation because typically when I'm thinking about this topic, there's often a lot of fears for me around it. What if something happens to me physically because I'm pregnant or giving birth? Or, what if we don't have capacity to handle a third child, both financially, but then also physically, mentally, emotionally? What if the kids don't adjust? There's a lot of fears around the decision to expand your family. But this conversation was just so nice because we got to just dream about all the things that could go right and that could go well when deciding to expand your family. It really took me back to the early times of when I was growing my family or when we did start our family and how good that felt. And I think many of you can really resonate with that. It feels good to be in that early phase where maybe you are trying to get pregnant or, exploring the options of, starting the process. Maybe you are pregnant. Maybe you just got pregnant. Maybe you're in your second or third trimester. You're doing all the things, you're buying all the things, you're trying to prepare. Yes, it's a stressful time. Yes, for many it's a painful time, a very uncomfortable time, but there is some beauty and just a specialness to that process. And I'm so lucky that I was able to go through it twice. So we allowed ourselves to dream that night. We talked about all of the pros and all the things that could go well. And then at the end of the night, we were like, okay, clearly we can't make any decisions today. Let's pray about it. Let's think about it. Let's keep it in our minds. And when the time is right, we'll know if this is the right decision to make. We agreed on that. And I took that very serious. And so throughout the following week and into the month, I really focused on, okay, God, universe, should I grow my family? Is there space and room here for a third child? Is this something that we should do? Is this something that is for us to do? And I tried to be so open about this. I tried to be so open, and I went through the weeks and the months just really, really, really asking and looking for any signs or clues, or even within me, not just externally in my world, within me, how does it feel when I really stop to think and to dream about this third child? Now I want to backtrack a bit because I want to let you all know where we started when we even decided we wanted to have a family. So we got married. We always knew we wanted to have kids. It was like get married, have kids. That was always the plan. And when we first talked about it, when we got married, how long has it been now? Almost 7 years ago. My number was always at least two, and his number was three. And so it was like, okay, at minimum, we know we're going to have two kids. And a third one, we'll just kind of see what happens. I'm glad we left it open because I think, again, something to consider, keep in mind with the decision or the choice to grow your family. It does need to be one that's flexible and one that has space and room for changes, because as you become a parent and get deeper into the journey of parenting, your mind might change, your emotions change, your capacity changes, and so these decisions might change, right? So his number was three, my number was two, and we just were like, okay, let's start life. Got married, we had our kids, we knew we wanted to have our kids back to back. Because I always wanted my kids to be close, and so for us, that 2 year age gap, perfect, 10 out of 10. I highly recommend, by the way. If this could be a sponsored section, it would. I know it's hard, that 2 under 2 life, but I love how close the kids are, and I just don't know if they would be that close if there was a bigger age gap. And I'm sure there's probably people who are listening to this like, oh, my kids have a bigger age gap and they're super close. So let's scratch this. Let's pretend I didn't say that, because everybody's different. All kids are different, but for us, that 2 year age gap has been amazing. I love it. Love it. So we had our two kids, and what I noticed about myself was that with my pregnancies were super easy. Had a few things pop up that were not ideal, but got through them. The toughest part was having a C-section for both kids. Definitely not something I had planned for, because I don't think most people don't plan for a C-section. Again, now I'm realizing, yes, there are some people who do plan for C-sections because of medical reasons or just preference, or maybe you had your first C-section, the second one you're going to plan. But for me, I never wanted to have a C-section, and I ended up having a C-section for both. Those C-sections were so hard on my body. The recovery was just so hard. I got through them clearly, but it was hard. It was very hard. And the second time was much harder because I had a toddler. I didn't like what my body had to go through to bring children into this world. And I also didn't like what my mental and my emotions had to go through, because I was so scared. And that's another podcast episode we will do another day. The fear that a lot of women, especially Black women, feel about having children. I hate it. I hate this for us. And for me, I was very much a victim to that. I was frightened. I tried to do a lot of work to find my joy in birth and not be afraid, but bitch, I was scared. I was scared. I think it's also just a manifestation of my own anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety, and for me, when it comes to health and my physical body, anxiety can come up really quickly. Through the process of having my two kids, I realized I don't think I can do this again. I just can't do it. I don't think I want my body to go through it again. And I also don't know if my mind can take it again. I don't want to be that afraid. I don't want to feel that scared. I don't want to be that anxious. And I started to realize that I did not want to have another child because of my two experiences of childbirth. For me, going through that process of realizing gradually that I just didn't think that I had it in me to have a third child brought up a lot of feelings. And I'm looking at my notes if y'all see me looking down, because I always take notes so that I'm not just like rambling on this podcast. But for me, once I started to really realize like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can have a third child. I just don't think I have it in me. The three biggest feelings that I started to feel: guilt, envy, and grief. Guilt, one, because I knew my husband really wanted a third child. And again, I hope through me sharing this that someone's listening to this and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in that same position, and hearing this helps. I hope that this helps somebody or may help you later. But I felt a lot of guilt about being the one to have to say, hey, I know we talked about potentially having a third child, but I just don't think I can do it. I just don't think I can do it. I felt so guilty for that because it felt like, well, I'm the one stopping the process here. It's me, right? My husband was very understanding, but also still had his desire. I think everyone has the right to have their desires about how they imagine their family to be. And so that was something that we just had to live with and accept, this tension or this feeling of, well, I want more kids, but she doesn't, or vice versa. And I think, again, many people find themselves in that situation. I had a lot of guilt, felt a lot of guilt, and it took a while for me to no longer feel guilty about my choice to not continue to bring life into this world. But guilt was very prominent. Envy was also something I felt. And I will say that I was deep in my envy about other people growing their family maybe about a year ago. And I think this is something people don't talk about because it feels so wrong, right? It's like, well, how could you not be happy for your friends or your loved ones if they're doing something positive or going through something? But like, you guys, we're human. And this feeling of envy happens in so many areas of life, not just with the decision to grow your family and maybe deciding you don't want to, but then seeing others. Like, it happens when people are getting pregnant and maybe someone else is struggling and it's hard to watch their friends or loved ones get pregnant. It happens when maybe people graduate and someone is struggling to get a job, but they're watching everyone around them get jobs, right? Or it happens when maybe your group of friends, they're buying houses and they're doing really well and you feel like you're still struggling. Don't beat yourself up, and don't beat up other people for feeling envy. It's natural, it's human, and it also is part of a healing process. Like, we have to stop. And okay, this is, I guess, clearly I have feelings about this. I didn't realize envy is okay. It's okay to feel that because it's normal. It's natural. It's human. I felt envious of people who were growing their families, even though I knew it wasn't something I felt like I could do. And the envy was because I felt like I was forced to say no, even though I still, part of me had a desire, right? It's nuanced, it's complicated. I knew that it would be a strain for me to grow my family, but there was still a part of me that really wished I could. And so, of course, it's going to be hard to see my friends and loved ones doing it, even when I know it's probably not the best decision for me. That doesn't mean I'm not happy for them. It just means that the feelings about it are complicated. And if we don't allow ourselves to feel envy or guilt or any of the feelings I'm going to talk about today, they don't go away. You're supposed to let yourself feel it so that you can move through it. I'm glad I let myself feel that. I journaled about it. I wrote about it. I talked to my husband about it, my close friends about it. Just that feeling of, it's hard to watch other people getting pregnant again and having more babies because I'm still in between and just not completely accepting of my decision. Another feeling I felt big time is grief. No, I won't say nobody. I'm sure there's someone online talking about this, but I do think it's something we should be talking about more, or at least hearing about more, because no one really warns you of the grief you start to feel once you get closer to that decision or that realization that your family is complete. Having a complete family is such a beautiful thing. That's a really good thing. But there's also grief because something has ended. That period in your life, that journey of growing your family, of having a new family, it ends. Yes, it brings on a new phase of life, and I'm really enjoying this new phase, y'all. We will talk about that at the end, but I am no longer in that phase of bringing in new life to this world. I'm no longer in the business of making babies. And there came some grief with that, knowing that this journey, this part of my journey has ended. If you feel that, that is normal, that is natural, you are human, it's okay. And you have to allow yourself to feel that grief. There's going to be sadness, there's going to be anger, there's going to be a mix of feelings. It's going to feel bittersweet. Whatever you need to do to process through that, whether it's therapy or journaling or talking to loved ones about it, do it so that you can move through it and then get to enjoy the next phase of your journey. So I actually want to go back to the original story. I'm going to backtrack a bit. I want to go back to that original story of us being on the couch, talking about this decision to potentially grow our family. And, we were honest with ourselves about how it likely wouldn't be with us having a baby, and it would probably be through fostering or adopting if we decided to have a third child. And all the while, prior to that one conversation about a month ago, I had been doing all that work of working through my guilt, my envy, my grief, and really accepting this decision of possibly our family being complete, right? Because I knew early that I just don't think I can have another kid. Basically, when I was on the table about to deliver my second child through C-section, it was like, nah, we're not doing this again. I will not be here anymore. This is done. I knew. As soon as we knew. I knew. So I have been doing this work of like adjusting and accepting, and for almost 2 years, accepting that my family is complete. And again, it takes time. This takes time, right? So after we had that conversation, remember, we went away, we prayed, we thought about it, reflected. I really took this seriously. And you all, the conversation felt so good. It was so hopeful and so freeing, so liberating. But when I tell you that every answer that kept coming back to me was a big old no, everything was no. No. When I would ask, God or the universe, should we have another baby? Is this the direction our family should go? No. No. The answer was no. And maybe this will be another podcast. I don't want to go into how I know that the answer was no. Intuitively, the answers always came back as no to me. So I sat with that, and again, more grief came because it was like, okay, this really feels like the end. This is really the final answer, because I was so intentional about bringing this to a higher power, something beyond me, not just me making the decision, but like me, my partner, and our creator, talking this through, and, our intuition, and everything said no. Everything said no. And so I had to accept that. And now I am continuing the process of officially accepting that the final answer is no. The final answer is no. I took some notes on this part. I am learning to love all the good and amazing things that are present in our family. I am owning and accepting the envy and the grief, knowing that they will pass as I allow them to just be with me. And I am so looking forward to this next phase of parenthood. I think this is such an interesting experience, and had no clue this would be a whole thing, right? Like just this decision to stop having kids, right? Like It's bigger than I think we realize. And, for me, it has been a journey of going back and forth and feeling guilty and feeling the envy, feeling the grief, and then doubling down on the grief once you get the final answer. But today, yes, there's still a little bit of grief there. There's still, actually, nope, I don't feel guilty no more. I don't feel guilty anymore. I don't feel envious anymore, which also feels really good to not feel that. But I do, if I'm honest, still feel a little bit of grief, but not as intense as it was. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And I know that I can carry that grief. And I know that as I allow it to be and be present in me, it will pass. So we have officially decided no, we are not expanding our family. And it's so funny, y'all. Let me tell you this part. And this is how I know this conversation needed to happen. And I'm so glad that this was done with my partner, with my husband, because I don't think it would have felt so good to be making this final decision if it was just me. So I kind of kept quiet after this. Like, I was reflecting with God, with the universe, with my intention, or my intuition, and which everything kept coming back no. And I was like, fuck. Like, if I really was like, damn, all these no's, like, how the fuck am I gonna go back to my husband and tell him that my guides, my ancestors are saying no? Because I don't know what his are saying. And so, like, I kind of was just avoiding it, to be honest. I was like, okay, I'm not going to bring it up unless he brings it up. Let's just not talk about it. I think we both were doing that. And then one day, randomly, I don't know what it was. I think we were like, I wish I remember. Something happened where we were out with the kids. And I think it was, we realized that we had gone out without a diaper bag. We were throwing away the diaper pill because none of my kids are in pull-ups or diapers anymore. We could just go out and be free, and how good that felt. And then we both were like, yeah, we're not having another kid. This feels too good. And he was like, yeah, he was like, I think it was good that we reflected on it together, but it just doesn't, it's not a good fit for us. I think we're good. And I was like, I agree. And my husband, for anyone who knows him, his process of making decisions is completely different from mine. Much more practical, much more logical. For him, it was more so like, yeah, financially, it just doesn't make sense. We're in a good place. We got rid of all our stuff. And for me, it was so much more intuitive and more like heart-centered and reflective. But either way, we both got to the same conclusion. It's a no. It's a no, baby. No more. No more. And I'm so proud of us for being here and now being able to move on to the next phase. Yeah, it's a no. So 2 more things before we end today. I want to share with you all, again, I told you there's not going to be a lot of tips, not a lot of tricks or strategies here, because I just think this is such a personal process that everyone has to go through. But I do want to share 4 things that I think helped me get here. And when I say here, I mean helped me get to the place where I actually feel good about my decision. And so regardless of what your decision is, whether your decision is a yes, let's keep going, let's keep growing our family, or whether your decision is a no, these are the 4 things that helped me get here to feeling good and 100% about my decision. One, time. Because if y'all followed the story, I started to realize I didn't want to have a 3rd child when I was being cut open to have my 2nd child. And now, finally having a final answer. That's a span of almost 3 years. I gave myself time. I didn't rush this. I didn't force myself to make a decision. I let myself have the time I needed to feel comfortable with the decision. So time, give yourself time to really think about it and reflect and have the conversations and continue to have the conversations. Number 2, reflection, personal reflection, whether it's through journaling or like literally just thinking about it, like reflection on what I wanted and how I felt about the topic. is so important, because how can you really know what you want? How can you really know how you feel about something if you're not spending time with the choice, spending time with the decision? A lot of this for me was personal until I had this big conversation with my husband about it. But I think that personal reflection is so important because it really can help anchor you in how you actually feel and what you actually want. Number 3, I already kind of spoke to this one, but letting my negative feelings be there without judgment. So I put, if you're not watching on YouTube, negative, I put in air quotes because it's like I'm talking about the grief, the envy, what was the other feeling? Guilt. But there might be other feelings that other people might feel that are like negative potentially, but these are not negative feelings, they're feelings. And too often we try to push these feelings away, like, oh, guilt, push it away. Oh, envy, how dare you feel envious of your loved ones? Or, grief, why be sad? Like, no, let yourself feel sad, let yourself feel that envy, let yourself feel the guilt. Whatever the feelings are, let yourself feel them. Letting myself feel these feelings and be there without judgment helped me move through all the shit I needed to move through to then be confident about my decision on the other side. And then lastly, I think the big thing that helped me this time around with this decision being the final answer is that I got to have it with my partner. Because what I realized, I do so much reflection and I think about things, I feel my feelings. But for this, it didn't really feel like I was really okay with it until we were both okay with it. Being on the same page, being aligned with the decision like that made all the difference. And so I'm so grateful to have a partner who aligns with me on some things, not all things. Let's be clear. Some things. I'm glad we were able to align on this. That helped me a lot. It helped me a lot. So this is what I want to do for you all. I know there are probably some people who are listening. We're at the end of our episode and they're like, okay, but I still need more guidance. I still need like some help to figure out what I'm doing. Like, should I say yes? Should I say no? I just don't feel like I have enough information, education to provide you with helping you other than what I've already given you. But I will do a tarot reading for you. So for anyone who is interested in that, if you are in this situation and you're trying to decide, should I grow my family? Should I not? Let's do a reading real quick. And we'll help you decide. Okay, we're back. So the reading I want to do is called Advice from the Universe. It's one of my favorite readings to do. As you all know, I am still new to tarot, and my journey with tarot is something I've always been interested about, intrigued about, received so many readings, but it was just like, could I actually do this myself? And I decided yes, I could do it, so I'm doing it. So I like doing this on the podcast, so thank you all for letting me do this. Okay, so my deck here, for anyone who is interested, I've shared this before, is called the Kaleidodope Tarot deck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull 3 cards for this one, and it'll just help to give you some guidance and some things to think about. Again, this reading is called Advice from the Universe. So the first card that I pull will be about the situation. So it'll kind of describe the situation you're in. And again, we are talking about your decision to have more children and whether that's something that you want to do, need to do for your family. So the first card will describe the situation. The second card will be a new perspective to take. So that card is what the universe wants you to know or how they want you to be thinking about this situation. And then the third card is action. So the third card will be action to take and how to approach moving forward. All right, so let me shuffle the deck. I'm shuffling. I just hope this is helpful. I really do. I hope this is helpful for some of you. And I actually did not have my tarot deck when I was going through this myself. Otherwise, I would have absolutely used it. But I was not yet ready for tarot. So, yeah, that's that. Oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna shuffle one more time. Y'all know last time I did tarot on the podcast, the shuffling is serious. Also, so I'll say while I'm shuffling, because I am new, I am still in the process of learning the cards. And so for some of them, I might refer to my book to better understand what the card is saying. But even better if I could pull some cards that I know. But either way, this is what the universe wants you to know and understand about your decision to expand and grow your family. All right, cards pulled. So the first one we have Six of Cups. I'll show it to you if you're watching on YouTube. Six of Cups upright. So this is the card that describes. This is so funny. Every time it does this, like once it hits me what the card is, I'm like, yo, that's spot on. This is the one that describes the situation, right? So if we try to describe this situation, this decision to have more children, the Six of Cups always reminds me of like nostalgia. It's like reminiscent of going back in time to a place that maybe felt more comforting or felt more exciting, maybe more childlike. Actually, I am going to refer to this because I want to really make sure that I'm really getting this right. But it's definitely kind of going back and just feeling that nostalgia, recollection, something from the past that is exciting, happy memories, innocence, more comfort. So interesting that this one came up with regard to describing the situation because I imagine that this is how many of us feel when we are trying to make that decision. We might have a lot of thoughts or reflections that take us back to the nostalgia of when we first started growing our families and how good it felt and the good feelings and what led you to say yes the first or the second or the third time, right? It's that nostalgia, many of us when we're making this decision or when we're kind of in between the yes and the yes and the no, we are really kind of thinking a lot about the past and thinking a lot about how it felt to be new in the process of motherhood or parenthood, new in the journey of growing your family. That's exciting and it's precious. And I think sometimes it's the grief that we're feeling about getting closer to no longer doing it that pushes us even more to this place of nostalgia about when we first started. So I think this card perfectly describes the situation and probably how you're feeling about it. Like there's a lot of nostalgia, a lot of happy feelings and happy moments about when we first started and how things were going, and we were so new, and now things are a little different, right? So let's look at the second card. This second card is a new perspective to take. King of Coins. King of Coins, I'm showing you here. This is interesting. I definitely want to look to see what this is meaning because I always get a little confused about the suit cards, like the king, the queen, especially the king. The queens, I feel like I understand a lot better, but sometimes the kings kind of confuse me. I gotta pull out the big book for this one, y'all. Hold on now. Hold on. This is a new perspective that the universe is wanting you to take about this. Let me find it. Let me find it. Okay. So the King of Pentacles or the King of Coins can represent a person with financial stability, generosity, and drive. That person may be you. It can also represent the energy of a situation requiring you to take a leadership role, make financial decisions on behalf of others, or take action reaching a goal. It may require you to use your resources for the benefit of others. Interesting. I'm gonna read this other part. You are feeling healthy masculine energy within yourself and around you, perhaps through a supportive father figure, your own father figure, or the father of your children. You're looking for ways to be more generous with your resources, whether it's funding causes based on your passions or spending more time with people in need. This is interesting. I would be so curious to hear what's coming to y'all when I'm reading this, because it's like I can only hear what's coming to me, but everyone, when they hear this, it's going to be something different for you. So for me, this is like it's saying, when you're making this decision, the universe wants you to take this new perspective of taking more of a leadership role, or a more active, directive role in this decision. It also may be telling you to be mindful about the financial aspects of this decision. I think it's also saying think more about like structurally, systemically, financially. Think about your resources with this decision. It might also be saying to kind of take your feelings out of it a little bit. I think that's what's also coming to mind for me, because again, we talked about in this whole episode, this is such an emotional decision. There's so many emotions, but I think this card, the King of Coins, is also reminding us that we need to be really grounded in this decision, be active, be assertive, take a leadership role, but like, if in however you can, separate your feelings from it, because your feelings can really change the perspective of what actually needs to be done, or what we're capable of. And also, this last point, taking action to reach the goal. It might be that you are kind of sitting and waiting. And this card really is like move, that healthy masculine energy, right? It's like take action, more directive, more assertive, be the leader, like guide this decision. Don't sit, don't wait, separate the emotions from it, and then really guide this decision to where it needs to be. I think that's the perspective that the universe wants you to take, or a new perspective that the universe wants to offer for you. Last card is the action card. So this is the card that should help guide you with regard to taking action, with making your decision. Ooh, I love this card. Okay, let me say. I love this card because this card comes up for me often. It's the Eight of Swords. Y'all. Eight of Swords. So when this card comes up for me, typically what it is telling me is that you think you are restricted. You think you are limited, but the things that are limiting you and holding you back are all self-imposed. They're not real. They're all self-imposed. They're all things that you made up, or they're things that you are telling yourself. You're not as stuck as you think. You can move. You actually can do something. You can move. And so I want to, because again, that's just always what comes to mind for me. I want to read it here for you. So keywords for this card, again, Eight of Swords, feeling trapped, feeling restricted. The Eight of Swords indicates that you're feeling trapped or stuck, either by circumstance, by the past, or by your own internal fears or uncertainty. Feelings of separateness, not fitting in, and being unable to express yourself freely are also indicated. You may find yourself making excuses for why you can't move forward, or holding everything inside, feeling powerless to spark change. Since the way forward begins with you reclaiming your power, start by taking small steps towards your true desire. Have faith and be patient with yourself. This process takes patience and perseverance, but you can do it. And I'm going to leave it at that. I feel like that was self-explanatory enough. So you all, I hope that was helpful in getting you closer to feeling confident about your decision to grow or not grow your family. And again, this is personal for everybody. I'm not advocating for yes or no. I'm advocating for everyone to feel comfortable and accepting of whatever decision that they make. Whether you decide to have one kid, two kids, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that's a lot. But whatever number you decide, however you decide to do it, I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to feel confident. I want you to be fully accepting and embracing the new reality for what decision you have made. Thank you all for listening today. Feel free to reach out to me. Let me know if this episode helped you and how it did. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment so that I can see how it resonated with you, and then we can chat about it in the comments. If you are listening to the podcast, leave a review and maybe also share a little bit of which episode has been your favorite so far. But then also, you all know you can reach out to me on Instagram. Let me know how this episode was for you and where it helped you go.
Thank you so much for listening to Dr.
Okay,
Amber's Know
we
and
will
Grow
talk soon.
podcast.
Bye.
I love that you're here. I love that we're learning together. We're growing together. We're navigating all these things together. We're really in this together. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave me a 5-star rating and review. That is so important because it helps this podcast grow. And it also gives me some feedback on how it's landing for you. Please share this podcast with someone that you love or someone that you know. And don't forget to connect with me on social media at Dr. Amber Thornton. I'll talk to you soon.